Season 1, Episode 29 of The Twilight Zone. Nightmare as a Child, an episode that gets much better as it goes along. So I was really doubting this one in the first half. The teleplane story are by Rod Serling, and I should stop doubting him because he is cooking something up with this teleplay. This is a much simpler episode, you know. They have to save the budget for the more extravagant ones. Like the previous one, A Nice Place to Visit, that had a whole casino and extras and showgirls. This just has a school teacher, Helen Foley, who's going into her apartment and she sees a little girl that reminds her of herself and seems to know everything about her. She's humming a nursery rhyme that Helen used to sing as a kid. She even knows that Helen has this scar on her forearm from a burn. She seems to know a lot about her. They're not really playing hide the ball here. This little girl is Helen Foley as a child. But it is a little odd because she doesn't seem to notice her. You would think if you saw yourself as a child, you would at least recognize that it's you. But there's a bit of a twist on that later on. All we know right now is this little girl is Helen Foley. We then get a man by the name of Peter, who worked for Helen's mother when Helen was a young girl. And we see a flashback halfway through the episode where this nightmare as a child consists of Helen seeing a man kill her mother, strangling her and then hitting her with a blunt object as she's sitting in her bed. They do this as a silhouette, but it's still pretty violent for the time. And while this is a quiet episode, they do a few jump scares to keep the audience engaged. When Peter first bursts into the scene, they do the loud strike of the piano or organ. Dun! It actually made me jump a little bit. And this one also gets into a bit of psychology. You see, Helen did observe this murder as a kid, but she blacked it out. When she was questioned by the police at the time, she said she didn't remember, she doesn't know what this guy looks like, she doesn't have any recollection of this murder happening, but now that she's older and a school teacher, it's starting to all come back to her, and it's manifesting as this little ghost child that's following her around, that calls herself Marky. So we are halfway through this episode, and no questions have been answered. And I was wondering, is this actually going to develop? Do some type of a crime plot? Is there going to be a supernatural twist besides just this little girl appearing and showing that she knows who Helen is? And finally we do get the twist, which I will reveal here. There's only 3 characters in this episode. There's actually an uncredited child actor we see towards the end. So I guess I make 4. We get Helen, the school teacher, Marky, the ghost of her as a little girl, and then a guy, Peter Selden. And in a nice twist, we learned that Peter was actually the person that killed Helen's mother all those years ago. He comes off as a nice guy at first, actually wants to help Helen, but as he realizes that this memory is coming back and Helen now remembers her mother being killed, she still can't quite figure out who it is, but she's starting to see a face and now it's starting to match up to Peter. He decides to just come out and say, I'm the one that broke into your house and killed your mother. Apparently they work together. And they were having a financial dispute, and he's been tracking Helen ever since that happened, keeping an eye on her in case she ever starts to remember who actually did this. Because up until this point, she's completely blacked out this memory. We get a battle between Helen and Peter, and some of the editing in this episode is a bit haphazard. She manages to push him down the stairs, but I'll show the scene here. You never actually see her push him. It's just this stunt actor jumps over the railing and falls down the stairs. And this is an actual person. This is not a dummy they're using, so I gotta give it to the Twilight Zone. Anytime they do some stunt work, it looks extremely dangerous. But I don't know why he falls like this. Technically, they're standing in front of the stairs. He's wrestling with her and she just pushes him down the stairs. Here it looks like she does a wrestling move where she throws him over the ropes and just catapults him down the stairs. It would not be possible for her to do that, but I guess it makes a good stunt. And we get a nice little epilogue where she sees another little girl at the end singing, and she tells her to never lose her beautiful voice. Now, I thought at first what this episode was trying to say is that Marky was giving her these memories about her mother being killed, and then this girl at the end was actually the full manifestation of Helen. There's some reason they put this little girl who's not appeared in this episode whatsoever right at the end. So Rod Serling's definitely going for something here. Is it that Marky, her as a child, but there are some differences where she didn't recognize her and now she sees this new child and that's actually the full manifestation of what she looked like as a kid? Because I still have no idea why when she first sees Marky, she doesn't recognize her as herself. I I mean, if I saw myself as a 10-year-old, I would 100% recognize him. Like, come on. I also think this new kid who doesn't have a name that Helen sees at the end looks a lot more similar to how she would look as a kid. Like, if you look at the comparison between these two children, which of them looks more like Helen as an adult? I would say the one at the end, but it's up to interpretation. And we can't ask Rod Serling, but he's onto something here. He's hinting at something. I know he is. So this is a really well thought out story. It's one that's a bit hard to rate. I would say the first half is a 3, and the second half is a 7. So I'm going to be fair here and average it out to a 5. It's a little better than an average episode, since the story itself is really engaging, but they hide it all towards the end. It comes together and makes sense. Has enough of a supernatural twist to feel like a Twilight Zone episode, as opposed to like just an Alfred Hitchcock Presents murder mystery. There's even a few jump scares. It just starts slow, and they hit you over the head with the fact that this girl Marky is Helen as a child. I find this happens quite a lot in this series, where the main character is just really slow on the uptake. Come on, this kid knows everything about you. It's pointing out scars and saying your name you used to have as a kid. Catch on. That's weird. How did you know I was a teacher? Oh my goodness, that was my favorite flower. So it's like, yeah, it's you as a kid. Come on, let's get this murder mystery rolling. So it's a decent episode that I think a lot of people will enjoy. So the main character, Helen, was played by Janice Rule, who was in some movies like The Ambushers, Three Women, and her last TV appearance was in the Ray Bradbury Theater. The episode Some Live Like Lazarus, a series we will be covering maybe in another year. We gotta do Tales from the Crypt first. But we'll see Janice Rule again. And while the little girl Marky was played by Terry Burnham, whose career ended in the late 60s, being in series like Family Affair and Insight. The uncredited little girl at the end was played by Morgan Brittany, who is actually still alive. Wow. Amazing. That is something we never see in this series. You have to be like a really young kid to star in something from 1960 and still be alive. It's good to see some of these kid characters that were born in the 50s still alive, since pretty much any of the adult characters that I look up are dead. And a lot of them died not that long ago. Like if I was reviewing this series 15 years ago, a ton of these adult characters would still be alive. 1960 was 65 years ago, so even if you were 20 and you were in these episodes, you'd be 85. Morgan Brittany's still looking good, and was Vivian Leigh in the Scarlett O'Hara War. Seems to be a pseudo-documentary about finding the actress to play the lead part in Gone with the Wind, but it was released in 1980, and was most known for being Catherine Wentworth in 56 episodes of the TV show Dallas. So she went on to have a great career, and I still think might be the main manifestation of Helen, like her in her true form. And a few fun facts. Rod Serling named the main character Helen Foley after a teacher he had in high school. And in the Twilight Zone movie, they also have a character named Helen Foley, doing a callback to this episode. And give it up for IMDb for finding that Morgan Brittany played this uncredited girl part, because I don't know how they figure this stuff out. If she's uncredited in the series, how does anyone find out she was that one that actually played the part? Is she going on IMDb and saying it's me? Who knows? But they're real sleuths over there. Next up is one of the highest rated episodes, A Stop at Willoughby, about another guy going to an idealistic town. Oh, Rod Serling, haven't you done this several times already? But he's so good at it, so we're going to go to another small town. Hopefully this one has people in it, unlike the first episode. And check out our playlist for the other series that we've covered. Currently doing Black Mirror, every single episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, Twilight Zone, Mystery Science Theater 3000, we've done Fear Itself, Monsters, Pet Shop of Horrors, and Tales from the Dark Side. And this channel finally has gotten monetized, yay. So they'll be running ads on it pretty soon. I've opened up memberships to get episodes early, since I tend to make these episodes on my days off and then schedule them in advance. Because it doesn't make sense to make 5 episodes in a day and release 5 episodes in one day. Who would do that? And then have nothing for the next 2 weeks. So I schedule them in advance. And I'll be doing a video pretty soon where I announce the future of the channel, basically what we have scheduled for the next year. Now this is a monetized channel, is going to make billions of dollars. So stay tuned for that. Thanks a lot.